Hey, welcome everyone to the Dreambuildrs podcast. I am super excited for this upcoming episode where we're going to talk about what you can learn about tracking your brainwaves and how to upgrade your mind to luminous awareness. And I've invited a very special guest today, and I'm delighted to introduce to you Holly Copeland. Now, Holly is the founder of HeartMind Alchemy. She is a certified human potential coach, a healing practitioner, and a leader at the intersection of technology, consciousness, biohacking, and awakening. And she blends modern science and ancient wisdom traditions to guide people living in flow joyfully and effortlessly. So, Holly, thank you so much for coming on the Dreambuildrs podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just delighted to be here, truly.
You know what I loved about the fact that, like, we met a week ago, and what I really loved about you, and we were just talking about it as well, is that you studied and tracked and analyzed your own brainwaves for more than 6 months. You created your own data file and graphs and so on, in which you could exactly read how you progressed over time, and I think that's very, very cool. Now, before we talk about that, I would love to know where you got that, passion for from tracking your brainwaves and really to get into these flow states. So I would love to know what for you has been kind of a pivotal moment in your life when you really realized I really want to dedicate myself into this realm of meditation, neuroscience, and how to be in states of flow.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so how did I get into it? I'm a coach and a healing practitioner now, but for over 20 years, about 25 years, I was actually a conservation scientist with the Nature Conservancy and the University of Wyoming. And so my day was spent actually analyzing data on species and systems to try to conserve them. And I there came a pivotal moment in my life. It was about 2017 where I started to feel and sense that there was something. I wasn't quite aligned in my job. It just wasn't quite sitting with me. It was an amazing job. I mean, by anybody's standards, it was a dream job, truly. And I loved the work, but I could feel an inner pull that I was supposed to be doing something else. And I really had no idea what I was supposed to be doing at the time. I just had that unsettled feeling inside. And that eventually led me to quitting that job. And it was a little bit of a gradual process, but I basically invited spirit in to help me, figure out what I should be doing. So I shifted jobs to the University of Wyoming after my 20-year career at the Conservancy. And at the same time, I was really deep, like going into a deep soul search. I also had mold poisoning. And so I had a health crisis that was happening at the same time. So there was a bit of a nexus of health crisis, and I'm supposed to be doing something else. And what emerged from that was a really clear message that I got one day. I was actually out on a run, and I heard somebody on a podcast who was a coach, and I just had this voice enter in saying, that's what you should be doing. And I enrolled in a coaching program 3 weeks later. And really what happened was it was my own personal, so many of these are personal journeys, right? So what led me to tracking my brain was this recognition that while I had paid really close attention to diet and, sort of exercise, and I was always really conscious about those things, but my own sort of inner narrative mind, my own inner happiness I'd never been able to meditate. I'd never really been able to hack my mind, if you will. And I decided I needed to really work on that. And so I kind of took up meditation as a project, if you will. I called it my Rewire My Brain project.
Good project.
Yeah, it's like, this is kind of a mess in here, and I'd like to work on that. And I got this device, the Muse, this device that tracks your brainwaves. And I started learning about brainwaves and brainwave science. And I think what I did was I took my approach as a scientist, and I started applying it to my own brain. Um,
That's amazing.
because that's just how I approached all problems. So I was like, well, okay. Especially when I learned, I mean, when I first put the Muse device on and I could hear my brainwaves while I was meditating, I just thought that was the biggest, oh my God, I'd come across in a really long time, because now actually had a way to tell if my brain was busy or if my brain was quiet. That feedback from me was such an aha. And then when I learned that, okay, not only can I track my brain waves, but I can actually, start to understand over time those changes. I just got really excited because data makes me excited. It felt like I was turning what feels like a black box in our heads into a tractable problem, if you will,
Hmm. I know what you're talking about when you're talking about data and science, because I told you last time as well that, I've been working for 5 years, mostly in finance jobs. So, data analytics and building graphs and really seeing what the progress is like something that I've been working on as well. So I really relate to that. I find it super funny that you're so into that stuff as well. When you were, I want to zoom in a little bit on, because I found it interesting what you mentioned. You mentioned that you felt the inner pull to quit your job. But what was for you the kind of right moment to quit? Because there are like many people think different about this and don't know when to quit or what time to quit or when you should pursue your inner calling because you felt that inner pull, right,
Yeah.
within you.
Yeah.
How did you know that it was the right time to go for it?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So I had a little bit of a transition in that, like I said, I transitioned to a job at the University of Wyoming, which was also a data science job, but there was something that was like a soft landing. That was my first step, was just to like shift from this one group that I'd been in, that I'd had a career for 20 years, into something with some new people and a bit of a different job. And then that gave me this wisdom of oh, actually this is not just about the place that I've been for 20 years, because there were some things going on there that I wanted to shift organizations. And then I understood, okay, no, this is actually about something really bigger. So that gave me a little bit of that soft landing, gave me clarity. And then was the big jump, which was, how do you actually, leave? I did part-time for a couple months. They actually asked them if I could go part-time, which they did. And then I recognized, oh, in order to really do this job as a coach, I actually need to give it my full attention.
Okay,
And
wow.
don't get me wrong, like I had all kinds of people telling me, you know, um, oh no, earn this amount of income before you quit. Like show that you can be self-sufficient completely before you quit. And that didn't make any sense to me, because how can I possibly expect to earn a full-time income when I'm only doing something part-time?
Yeah. Hmm.
And so I really saw it as my moment of a leap of faith. And I don't know if your listeners or people remember, but there's this amazing scene in Indiana Jones movie, the third movie, where he's standing at this chasm that he has to cross. It's called the leap of faith scene. And he has to take a step into this chasm and he can't see anything. And he takes a step and there's this hidden rock, that appears in front of him. And it felt like that to me. Like there came a moment where it's like, this is my leap of faith moment. I have to believe in myself. I have to believe in the universe that I can do this. And just trust. It's I think one of the hardest things that you could possibly do, to quit. I mean, I had a full-time salary, I had healthcare, I had 401k benefits. I mean, I had all the things. And yet I just knew that I was supposed to be doing something else.
Yeah. Such a
Yeah.
brave step, though. you know,
It's
I know what
thank you.
I know what you're talking about. Because I made a similar step when I moved from corporate to entrepreneurship, and I had a similar calling. And they always say like, yeah, you need to save up enough money in order to make the step, or you need to start part-time. But I think for everybody it's different, because we all walk a different journey. And either way, we're going to learn along life what happens and what comes on our path. And that's the way that we evolve and grow. And so for
Yeah.
me, like, I just quit and left everything behind.
Awesome.
Without
Awesome.
thinking about, I knew I had some ideas and so on, but I
Yeah.
didn't have like I wasn't a coach yet, or I wasn't an expert
Mhm.
in something yet. So I was just going to build it up from there. But I felt that pulls as well. So it's
Yeah.
just like taking a step and doing it and trusting that process. I think it's very important what you just said, like just trust and believe that it will
Yeah.
be well.
It's
Right?
a belief, totally, and it's like a belief in yourself, actually. It's like you have to believe in your own capability and your own heart. Like if you really are dedicated to it that much, that the universe has your back, that the universe is there to support you. Um, and a willingness, I think, to recognize that that's actually the most important thing. So, yeah, I just knew one way or another I would make it work. Even if I had to work at a coffee shop, in the evening, or wait tables for a few hours, I didn't really care, right? Like,
Exactly.
like if that was what I had to do, I would have done that. But I knew that getting out of this full-time job and really releasing myself from all that was what was the most important step. And I absolutely 100% that was true. Yeah.
Awesome. And then you started immediately
And
digging into
yeah,
neuroscience and so on.
yeah.
You use that the device, the Muse, right?
Mhm.
Very important for people that don't know what it is. Maybe you can explain how it tracks your brainwaves. I think it's interesting as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the Muse is this wearable headband. It has 4 sensors, 2 in the front and 2 in the back behind your ears. It's not very expensive. It's like $200 or $300, so it's pretty affordable. Um, and you can use it in a couple different ways. You can use it with neurofeedback, where you hear this sound of the rain, and as if your brain is very noisy, then you'll hear a lot of rain. And as you quiet your mind, then the rain starts to go away. And then there's a third-party app called Mind Monitor that allows you to, instead of using the kind of native Muse app, you just track your brain waves. So you don't hear any feedback. So I do other types of meditation, but it tracks my brain waves, and it's like a very inexpensive app. It's like $15, and then you go in, you save your files, and then you can bring them up in the app, or on their website, and create a profile graph of your brainwaves. So you see alpha, delta, theta, beta, coming along. And so that was what I liked the most, was using that, because then I could really see over time, during the duration of the meditation, so 45 minutes or an hour, let's say, I could see what my brainwaves were doing. And I started to really just watch every day, tracking my brainwaves when I meditated. And I actually did it for about 2 years, every day. And what I noticed over time, and I actually entered a subtle energy meditation class, this amazing class called Raising Our Vibration Subtle Energy Meditation. And so I was working with these teachers at the time. So I was going deeper and deeper into meditation. And what I could see on my graphs was that I started to see patterns, like where I would shift into a deeper state. So I could see like theta jumping up, for example. Sometimes in an excited state, I would see like gamma jumping up. So I started to just watch and learn, like you're a data analyst, you just start studying the data and you get familiar with it. And what I loved was that as I would get into a deeper state of meditation, I could actually see that shift on the graph. And I just thought that was so cool, because again, when you're meditating, at first, when you start meditating, you don't really know and understand that these deeper states are even possible. that you can
Yeah.
get into states of meditation where it's just flowing, right? And there's no effort, and the meditation is doing itself. And what the graph provided was that visual validation. I'd get in a meditation, or I'd come out of a meditation and I'd feel like, wow, that was really profound. And then I could look at the graph and I could see how my brainwaves shifted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so that was my first big aha. And then the second one was, because I had been a data analyst, I was really, I can program in R, the statistical program that a lot of universities use. And it's not a complicated program, but I wrote a program just to suck in all the data for all my meditations. So over 6 months or a year. And then I just wanted to see, like, what happened to theta over 6 months of meditating? What happened to alpha? Did I actually increase those things? Because if you go look at the literature, so I have a science background, so I like to read the literature. So I started diving into meditation research. And there are the very consistent patterns in meditation research of quieting of the mind. Like, what does quieting of the mind actually look like from a data perspective? And so if you dive into that research, what you'll find is a number of somewhat consistent patterns where the prefrontal cortex, the forehead, part of the brain, quiets and starts to still, and as does the back temporal lobes. And so beta and gamma typically decrease at first, and alpha and theta start to rise, and theta especially starts to rise. And there's some more subtle patterns and that you can, that different researchers have found. But that's one pattern that kind of shows up consistently, this quieting of the mind. And so now I knew what the research said about what quieting of the mind looks like. And so I was really curious, would I find that in my own data tracking it? So that's why I use this R program to help me understand what had happened to my brain over 6 months or a year. And in fact, that's what I found. I actually found, I found an overall consistent pattern of alpha and theta increasing, and gamma and beta decreasing. And then I found some more subtle patterns. I analyzed them with the different sensors, and saw, especially in the temporal lobes, especially in the back lobes, I really increased my alpha and theta. And that's, the back is where, like, deep meditation really happens, in the rear of our brain. So yeah, so I was able to validate the research with my own data, and I just thought that was really fun.
That's amazing, because, like, sometimes when I meditate, and I think other people can relate to that, is you're thinking like, am I meditating right? Because you're sitting with your eyes closed. Am I doing it right? Sometimes I have noise in my mind, and I'm like, is my meditation now effective or is it not? And I think by tracking your brain, like the way that you did it, you could actually see what happened over time, right? And what you just described, that you
Yes.
actually over time went into the gamma and all these kind of states. So I think that's very cool. Now, what is, like, for you the most important kind of lesson that you learned over these 2 years that you tracked your brain?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. The most important lesson I learned was that the brain is plastic, that we absolutely can change our own minds. And so I went into this project with a pretty busy mind, that data analytical, I would say not overly judgmental and critical, but, kind of barking at me most of the day long, of do this, do that, you got to do this. And through the process of meditation through the process of meditation, I really quiet my mind. I really just started I have way fewer thoughts. My brain is, much, much calmer and clearer than it was when I started. So, you absolutely can change your brain. And so if you think that this barky voice in your head is just the way things are and there's no way out of that, then that is not my experience at all. And then just coupled with the power of data to change our own habits and understanding, just like if you went to the gym and you had no way to tell if you were progressing, if your weights were getting heavier, you had no way to tell. It's hard to be motivated to do those things. And meditation can be hard to be motivated to stay doing it. But for me, I really stayed motivated because I could feel the changes. I could feel my brain getting quieter and I could see the shifts in the graph. So that gave me that tangible evidence, if you will. It was like an evidence-based project where I could really feel and see the differences for myself.
Yeah. So when you talk about changing your mind and fewer thoughts and calming the mind, like, is there any particular type of meditation that you used and found very beneficial, or sort of meditation practice that you did for yourself that that really worked out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have explored a number of different types of meditation. I will say that at first, the type that I was practicing was concentration-based meditation. So just following the breath.
Mm-hmm.
And that, even within, I would say 8 weeks, I really noticed a difference with concentration meditation. But ultimately, then I moved into types of meditation where I was two primary types. So subtle energy meditation, where you're working with energy in the spine, you're breathing up the spine. Like Joe Dispenza does that. It's based on Kriya. It has lots of ancient traditions throughout the East use this technique of breathing in the spine. I thought that was incredibly helpful to learn to breathe in the spine and work with breath there. And then the other technique that I really dove deep into is based on Mahamudra and Dzogchen, the Tibetan traditions of direct awakening practices. So directly seeing that we are not our thoughts, that we are not our body. Direct inquiry meditation into just allowing what is and opening into what I would call like just open, spacious awareness. Really, that to me, that's kind of the ultimate quiet mind meditation. That recognition of the mind versus awareness was incredibly profound for me. So I teach a lot of that now in the work that I do.
And can you perhaps tell how that meditation works? I would be very interested to know more about that.
Yes, I would be happy to to tell you more. I'd be happy to guide the listeners in a short exercise if you would like.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, great.
It takes 10 minutes, roughly?
Yeah, 10 minutes is about right.
All right, let's do it.
Okay,
Take
awesome. So, so just invite your listeners to just close your eyes. And let's just take a couple of breaths together to center ourselves. Coming back into the body. And just notice that before you do anything, awareness is here. This most basic and essential knowing. I am aware. Notice that there's nothing you need to do to make awareness happen. So we could say awareness is here without your help. So we could call awareness the subject And notice that everything as your experience right now are all information coming to awareness. So every sound you hear, every sensation you feel on your skin, if your eyes were open, light would be coming to your eyes. Even thoughts or feelings, all of these are simply information. Something you're aware of. So we can call these the objects of awareness. So we'll turn our attention around from the objects or information of awareness and examine awareness itself. And start to notice the qualities of awareness. Awareness is not an object. So objects may have color or shape. Awareness does not have color or shape. So see if you can find any edges to your awareness. So maybe take awareness out up above your head and see if you can find an edge. And if you think you've found one, just pour space into space till you see for yourself that awareness has no edges or boundaries. And then notice that awareness is ever present, and it doesn't come and go in time. So this awareness is always here, right? So it's timeless. This is very different from an object, like a thought. Ask yourself, has any thought I've ever had stayed in my awareness? Has any feeling I've ever had stayed in awareness? Notice that no, thoughts and feelings, they're impermanent. They arise like a wave in the ocean, and then they dissolve. So awareness is timeless and boundless. And free. And you are this awareness. What else would you be? This means you are timeless and boundless and free. And just notice and feel how from awareness, when we take the position from awareness, we can allow everything to just come, arise, and dissolve. As if awareness were the sky and objects are clouds. They temporarily appear and then they dissolve back into the sky. Notice that clouds, just like clouds can't hurt the sky, a thunderstorm doesn't hurt the sky. We can see our thoughts or feelings this way. They can't hurt awareness. So shifting into freedom, into our essential being, which is open and spacious and free and at peace, is a simple shift away from the perception of ourselves as thoughts and feelings, like a melting back into our true nature, our true knowing, which is whole and complete and doesn't need anything to be better. This is really important to notice that you don't need to think to be, that your being is already okay. And you can just allow whatever arises, pain, heartache, sadness, simply be with them and meet them with the tenderness and compassion and openness of awareness. And in this way, you can find this safe ground of being. It's always here and always available, and is what you truly are. In this way, it's like a grand homecoming. To your own whole, perfect self. And when you're ready, just allow yourself to gently open your eyes. But see if you can hold your attention still on that awareness. See what it's like to be in that awareness from open eyes, centered in the ground of your being, aware of everything that's arising. but not leaving home. And thank you. Thank you for your practice, for everyone listening. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly.
How was that for you? I'm so curious.
That was great. That was great. I'm still kind of encapsulating and seeing what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the most important takeout for me was to, to understand that everything comes and goes, also in terms of thoughts and emotions and all these kind of things. And then as well, the fact that you're always here, you're always present in this moment, no matter what happens. You can be free, and it's okay to be home. It's okay to be yourself, right?
Exactly. Isn't that the definition really of aligning to our true, immaculate being, our true self, is to stay in that, to stay at home, not leave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Holly, thank you so much for sharing this beautiful meditation with my listeners. I hope everyone is still there and didn't
Yeah, you're so welcome.
No, but I really, really love this. So thank you so much. And before you, of course, go and leave us, please let us know what the best places are that people can find you and your work, your social media links, or anything else that you would love to promote.
Yeah, thank you so much. So HeartMindAlchemy.com is my website, and you'll find an opportunity to sign up for, for any mailings that I have. And I don't send out many, but courses and things like that I'm offering. Like, for example, I have an upcoming meditation 10-week course that I'm running starting in March, and there'll be an announcement about that type of thing, workshops that I'm doing. So also Instagram, Holly Erin Copeland. So yeah, those are the best ways to find me. Facebook. Oh, that's the other one. I have a Facebook community called HeartMind Alchemy Lab. So if one of your listeners is inspired to get a muse and start tracking your meditations, and you want to join a community of people who are doing that and will comment on each other's graphs, I have a Facebook community called HeartMind Alchemy Lab, and I welcome anybody to join.
That's awesome. I totally recommend anyone who's listening right now to join Holly in that Facebook group. Super cool to know more about consciousness, neuroscience, and biohacking, and knowing everything more about meditation as well. So
yeah,
I will drop the links in the show notes below. Holly, before you go, I would love to ask you one final question, and that is like, what has been for you the most important factor to really live out your purpose?
I think when all is said and done, to just follow your inner knowing, to follow, listen deeply to that calling, whatever that calling is for you, that each of us, if we can go in and simply hear that and awaken to that, and then that's our highest purpose. So we do ourselves and the world an incredible service when we follow our deepest knowing, our deepest heart.
Awesome. And I think everybody who's still listening can redo the meditation right now, because I really, really love that. That's also a way we can get to know more about ourselves, right? So, Holly, I really appreciated that you were coming on. I absolutely wish you all the energy in the world. The best of luck in the future. I will be looking forward to see what you're going to do as well. And let's stay in touch.
Yeah, I'd love to stay in touch. And thank you so much. I just really appreciate the opportunity to come on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.